Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Life with Shenita. I'm Shenita Connolly, and we are excited to have a conversation with you all this evening about the educated child. And I am so excited to share this evening with two amazing men. One, author Andrew Snorton, and Dr. Morcease Beasley from the Clayton County Public School System. So you are in for a treat. And so before we get started, I would like to just remind you all to like and share this broadcast. And remember that the goal for Life with Shenita is to help people overcome life's challenges and to choose to live a vibrant life. So the educated child, this is near and dear to my heart because my father was a third grade educated man, and he was determined that his children were not going to struggle through life like he did. And so we were in private school from first to 12th grade in the Catholic school out of Pensacola, Florida. And I remember him saying, I do not want you guys to go through what I went through to climb the ladder in jobs and make money to take care of his family, etc. And so it has always been very important to me that my kids are educated. They matriculated through all three of them through Clayton County Public Schools. They graduated from Mount Zion High School. The youngest graduated in 2007. I've been a citizen of Clayton County since 1996. And so I am a proud citizen of this county, and I am glad to have this conversation with two men who understand the importance of the educated child. So, Clayton County Public School is the fifth largest school district in Georgia, committed to serving over 5,000 students. We're located just south of Atlanta, and we are committed to high performance. So, education means studying in order to obtain a deeper knowledge and understanding of a variety of subjects to be applied to daily life. Education is not committed to just knowledge from books, but can also be obtained through practical experiences outside the classroom. As I mentioned earlier, CCPS, Clayton County Public Schools, is committed to high performance. When we're educated, it provides stability. It provides financial security. It's needed for equality. It also allows us to be self-dependent. It makes our dreams come true. It breeds a safer world when we're educated. It brings confidence. It's a vital part of society. It contributes to economic growth on a national level, and it can protect us from being taken advantage of. So education is extremely important. And so I am going to invite my co-host, author Andrew Snorton, in, who is an integral part of educating students all over the world. He is going to join me as we lead this conversation with Dr. Beasley this evening. So welcome, Andrew.
Hey, good evening, Shenita, and to all your viewers and your audience. Hope everyone's having a great evening and a great week and coming off a good holiday weekend as well.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this evening.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be a part of tonight's talk.
Yes, I enjoy watching how you work with students all over and you share some snippets from your work that you're doing, even in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I'm real fortunate under my business, Creative Community Solutions, LLC, the education branch that I have. Safely, of course, still doing the traditional tutoring, but of course, with the advent of technology, being able to work with students virtually here in the state of Georgia, the states of North Carolina, New York, and California. So even though primarily it's been high school students, especially in regards to like ACT and SAT testing, I've actually added a few more elementary students. So not only during the course of the school year, but even with some schools, already wrapping up, there's a number of students that understand how important it is to get a little repetition during the summer. So it's not so much of that summer stagnancy that we're sometimes used to. And then when you start back up in August or September, it's like, wait a minute, I'm like starting from square one. So doing just enough, you don't have to do it 50, 1100 hours of a day, but just enough to keep some of those basic skills. And especially, when you think about reading, it's about building your vocabulary. So when it builds up your vocabulary, it helps with your public speaking skills, your writing skills, your critical thinking and creative thinking. And since there's such a need for creative minds, the topic of tonight's show is so important and so critical. So I'm thankful to be a part of those moving parts. And like I said, thankful to be a part of tonight's show.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm excited. So we're going to get started by introducing Dr. Beasley and then bringing him in to join us. So I'm going to share a little bit about who he is. Dr. Morcease J. Beasley currently serves, as I mentioned earlier, as Superintendent of Clayton County Public Schools. Prior to being elected superintendent, he served as CCPS, Chief School Improvement Officer. Now, that's big, right? That means the word improvement, elevate, moving up. Dr. Beasley has over 20 years of dedicated service towards instructional practices and has held numerous leadership positions in public education. He is known as an innovative leader with an exceptional ability to transform both large urban and suburban school districts. Dr. Beasley is also recognized for his impeccable ability to improve student academic achievement, strengthen community engagement, as well as develop and implement sustainable strategies for a school system. Dr. Beasley is a recipient of notable accolades and multiple recognitions by numerous organizations. He holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in mathematics from the University of Montevallo, a Master's of Science degree in mathematics education from Sanford University, and an educational specialist, as well as doctorate degree in education with an emphasis in educational leadership from Sanford University. Dr. Beasley has also completed Harvard University's Public Educational Leadership Program. In addition to dedicating much of his life as a professional educator, Dr. Beasley enjoys recreational time with his wife and 4 children. He is also described as a mentor, author, traveler, and strong supporter of the arts. So I'd like for you all to welcome Dr. Beasley to the platform and to this much needed conversation tonight. Welcome, Dr. Beasley.
Hello, Shenita. Thank you. Good to see you again, Mr. Snorton.
Hey, likewise. Good to see you once again. And thanks again for joining us, Dr. Beasley.
Glad to be here.
Yes. Dr. Beasley, would you like to just share anything else about yourself with the audience?
Not really. You shared enough. You shared enough. I look forward to the conversation. We're just honored to serve in Clayton County Public Schools. As you shared already, the 5th largest district in the state. And it's a community, I think, that's going in the right direction. And we're just honored to be a part of the work that's occurring there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we thank you for the work that you are doing and have done.
Thank you.
And the progress we've made. So let's warm up with the icebreaker. So I have a question for you. So if you had to describe the color brown to a blind person, how would you describe that color, Dr. Beasley?
Oh, I would say brown. The color brown is handsome. It's jazzy. It's warm. It's fallish. It reminds you of Thanksgiving and being with family and friends. And It also, I would say, reminds you of just being in the company of great elders. When I think of Brown, I think of elders. I think of wise people. I think of individuals who have that are real grave, if you will, mature, grounded, and settled. That's what I think of when I hear the color brown, and I think that's why it's one of my favorite colors, brown.
I like that. Elders. Yes, I like that. So thank you. So, Andrew, you want to ask the first question?
Sure. Why not? So since we're having a great talk about education during this quote downtime, I don't think there's really such a thing as downtime. Here's a question I think, especially for the parents. In today's climate, what can parents and or caregivers do to ensure that their child or children are educated?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say the first thing is to just connect with them on a daily basis. Sometimes we want to go straight to reading and math, and we didn't ask kids how they're doing, how do they feel, even just allowing them to just be honest about what's going on in their lives. So before you try to educate children, you need to build that relationship with them. So I would say parents first work on your relationship. The education will come and it will happen at the right time, but build those positive relationships with your children, because that positive relationship will make the educational process work a lot smoother.
I'd have to agree with you. I think
Yes.
at times we sometimes talk about how kids will work for other educators and they might not work for some, but you made a good point. You emphasize, just like in anything, the importance of establishing a positive tone and establishing some type of like relationship.
That's right.
Where they know that there's a give and take, a share and exchange.
That's right.
So I'm glad you stressed that. So that's not only for the business world, that's just for day to day in regards to education.
Right. Because they need to know that you care.
That's right.
You know, before anything else, they need to know that you care. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. So I'm hoping that parents are jotting these notes down, and if they're doing it, that they will continue to do it, and that they will even share it with their friends, because these are tips that can go for generations to come, as we know.
You know, oftentimes what we fail to sometimes remember is you want a positive relationship because you want your children to come to you about anything, a situation with a teacher or another student. You want them to be able to come to you so you can show them how to respond if necessary, affirm if they've responded the right way, or even give them some wisdom as to how they can respond to the situation. But if they don't ever come to you, sometimes you never know what they're dealing with. So that relationship is so important to not just the K-12 experience, but as you all well know, for just life in general, because you know many things are going to come our way, and it just makes it a lot easier when you have those supportive relationships that you can lean on and that you can count on.
Yes. And you know, Dr. Beasley, I'm glad you said that, because as a single parent of 3 children, I made a lot of mistakes being that parent that just do as I say. So when it was time for them to come tell me things, guess what? It didn't happen as often as it needed to, because they didn't feel as comfortable. Yes. So it's important to let them know that you really do care. And I cared and loved my children, but it was the wrong approach. So in educating children, I think connecting, as you said, that relationship, them knowing that you love them, and making sure the approach is appropriate.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good experience that you've shared, some wisdom that I believe other parents can really benefit from. And I think, you know, Shenita, I know you as a good parent, you had good intentions, but sometimes we do have to all of us have to step back and look at our approaches and think, is this the right approach for this season in this child's life at their age, given the reality of what they're dealing with, their circumstances? And sometimes we want to use the same approach throughout a lifetime, and we don't acknowledge that children are growing and maturing. And so the approach you use when they were in, let's say, 2 and 3 year olds, that's not the same approach when you use when they're 7 and 8. And that 7 and 8 year old approach is not the same approach you use once they go into middle school or high school, etc. So we as parents, we've got to know how to adjust our approaches as well.
And
You're right.
I'm sorry. I'm glad you said that, because it's almost like sometimes, and to varying degrees, we're all guilty of, this is how I learned, this is how I processed it, so you should do it the same way. But I know from your experience in the classroom, I'm sure learning styles, learning intelligences, doesn't that sound familiar? So everybody processes things a little bit differently, but it comes back to your point. When you take time to talk with and listen to and get a point of reference, then you have a better idea, like you said, whether it's an academic situation, a community situation, or whatever. You have a better idea of, like you said, how to approach, how to take in information, how to share and exchange, and let somebody know that they're important, they're valued, and they feel like they're part of the process. So I'm glad you emphasize that.
Yeah, and I know, you all know, I know education is very important, but I also see, I see young people die at an early age. I see young people lose parents while they're young and in school. So, it's in moments like that that I realize it's not necessarily the importance of reading and math and science, but it's that relationship and that love that will carry them through those moments. And so that's why I think we got to start out building healthy relationships. I'll say God-centered relationships, where we treat people the way God expects us to treat people. He's a loving God, and he expects us to love people. He's a kind and gracious person, God, and he expects that of us. So that's, to me, that's a core value. It starts with the relationship. I tell people, I get the question, what do you want to be known for? What impact do you want to have on others? I said, sometimes we are interacting with people for a minute, sometimes a week, a year, or more. I said, whenever that interaction is over, I want to know that I positively impacted their lives in a loving manner that encouraged them to love somebody else and to lift other people.
That is the key right there. And, that's education, because we're demonstrating, we're educating. And, I think about when you said gracious, we want grace extended to us, but not too often are we willing to extend it the way we want to receive it. And so that's important, that grace be extended as well as we expect to receive it. So while we're talking about that, I want to go back a minute to, I want you to share, Dr. Beasley, why is education important?
That's a great question, Shenita, and I'll answer that question this way. In order to ride the subway in New York City or the MARTA here, you have to have a token, don't you? Or you got to have the right type of pass, right? Well, our society and this economy that we live in, it demands you to have a certain amount of currency, doesn't it?
Yes.
In order to make progress and to move to different places and spaces, you've got to have the currency of education. Education opens doors that without the education may not be open. In other words, if let's say you've been called to be a medical doctor, you can say you're called to be a medical doctor all day long, but if you don't go and get educated, that's a calling that you will never fulfill. If you're called to be a teacher, you can say I'm called to be a teacher from here until the rapture. But if you don't go and get a degree to teach, a credential to teach, you'll not have that opportunity to teach. If you want to be let's say an EMT, and you want to drive an ambulance and help people in emergencies, there are certain credentials that you've got to have. No matter what you want to do, there are credentials that are required of you. So education becomes your currency for you to fulfill your dreams and your passions and to do the things that you've been called to do. All of us have gifts and callings, don't we?
We do.
We all do. We all do. And no one gift and no one calling is better than another. They're different, but they're all unique, and they're all, I think, of value to this planet, this country, our communities, our spaces, our families. You've got to identify, acknowledge your gift, your calling, and then do what you got to do to improve your gift and your calling so you can use it as currency to go into the spaces that you've been called to go into. All of us are called to go into different spaces. You've got to look at your training and preparation relative to those spaces. So once you get there, you'll be an asset. You'll be a benefit. You'll be able to help somebody. You can't help others if you're not prepared to help others.
That's good.
I'm glad you said that. It's about, like you said, part of it is identifying the gifts that are known, being open to discovering more that's inside of you. And like you said, cultivating. It's just like, again, you can have, I don't know, a steak out there, but it's not going to do anything unless you put it on the grill, put it in the oven, and put a little bit of seasoning and marinating on it. So using that analogy, I know I'm thinking of cookouts from this past weekend. I know, shame on me, but it's the same principle. Like you said, you have something, but you've got to take time to develop it and take time to grow. And like you said before, one of the underlying themes, not only just being an asset, being a resource, I don't want to varying degrees being that model, being that visible example of, yes, this can happen. Yes, this is capable if you're willing to take the time to invest. And that ties in not only self-investment, but like you said before, investing in people, constructively investing in relationships to be able to share, exchange, build, grow, and develop.
And whether, people like to admit this or not, and the way our economy is created and it works, the more education you have, the more likely you'll make higher levels of income, the less likely you'll be unemployed. That's important, especially when you're trying to build a life for yourself and your family. The more likely you will have some better, I guess I should say higher quality of life indicators are moving more in your favor with an education than without the education. And that is important for people to understand. It's really about a quality of life.
Absolutely.
It's not, and I have to say this, Shenita, it's not to create classism, because you can be educated in so many different ways. You can be educated and not have a 4-year degree. I want people to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about creating classism. It's about you being your best you, so your family can experience the best quality of life that your education can afford them. That's what it's about.
That's what it's about.
And everybody's not supposed to be a millionaire. If that were the case, all of us would be. We're not all supposed to be millionaires. Exactly. But all of us can work toward an improved quality of life, and education helps you to achieve that.
And when I think of the educated child, I think of when my children have said, "Oh, I'd like to be this," or you see a particular skill that they display, and you know that there might be a program out there that can enhance or can expose them to something that they may not have thought about. I oftentimes think about that when my kids were young. My oldest daughter, who is in the medical field, she wanted to be a nurse. And so we were in Pensacola, Florida at the time, and I sent her to Pensacola Junior College for a summer camp in the medical field. At that time, she was in middle school. Well, today she works for Grady, and she's been in the field for about 15 years. And she graduated dually from Mount Zion as a CNA and college prep. Awesome. And so I say all that to say, when we think of educating our children, exposing them to different types of things, and it will help them discover
that's right
what they may desire or want to do.
And let's not overlook the skills that are developed: the patience, the resilience, the dedication, the commitment, the ability to problem solve, to think creatively, to be innovative. All of those are skills that education helps to develop. If it's an effective education, character, all of these things, education helps to, I think, improve and enhance in our students if we allow the education to do that. And those who take advantage of that opportunity, the data is very clear. Their outcomes oftentimes, we all experience life, but there are certain things that they experience more of because they prepared themselves. Yes. Not to take anything away from anybody else, but it's just a reality. Why? Because that's the currency of the economy of the world we live in.
Education becomes our currency. Mm-hmm. I love that. And so, as we think about that, what services are available to students who are challenged? You know, when we think about mentally challenged and we think about this climate that we're in with COVID. And I know that there were mental challenges before COVID, but to me, it seems like COVID has really made it larger, huger.
Highlighted them, yeah.
Yes. What types of services does Clayton County Public School System offer to parents and to students to support them during this challenging season or this challenging time?
Well, that's a great question as well. And I'll try to share the services by grouping them. The first type of services we offer are academic support services. If students need additional time with the content tutoring, we provide that, whether face-to-face, virtual, or through our online tutoring programs that we have that kids can access 24/7. But in addition to that academic support, we provide support, social emotional support. We provide healthcare support. I don't know if people even know that in Clayton County. We have provided eyeglasses for students. We provided dental services for students. We have mental support services for students. We have partners, many partners that work with our schools and through our what we call the circle of support. If a student is identified in need of counseling beyond the counseling that can be provided at the school, we connect our students to those resources, not only the students, but the family, if the family needs that type of support. So we provide the academic support, the social emotional, the health support, and whatever else other supports that we need. We have many students who are dealing with homelessness. So we have supports provided for students in dealing with homelessness. We work with our courts to ensure that resources are directed toward them. If families are having challenges paying their rent or their mortgage or their utility bills, our counselors know the process to connect those families with the resources. We work very closely with not only our county government and the various cities in our county, but with all the other agencies that are working to support families. We provide groceries if families need groceries. Many schools have their own pantry. We provide school supplies. No student in Clayton County should ever say they don't have a pencil or a paper or a book to write with. Those are just not acceptable excuses to us. When we went to virtual learning, we provided all of them laptops or a Chromebook, and families that needed Wi-Fi, we provided Wi-Fi. Yes. To me, those are supports to ensure that our kids are learning and that they're healthy and that they're growing. If students are having moments in life, sometimes our kids deal with the loss of a relative, a parent. We provide counseling support, our social workers. We visit homes, our SROs. We're whatever. We have persons to support with behavior issues, behavior interventionists to really help kids think through their behavior and how to improve better. As you know, when they know better, they do better. So we have that type of support. You name it. You toss a problem at me, Shenita, I will be able to share with you a support that we provide in Clayton County Public Schools, because we want our students to be successful, and we know that they're just children dealing with life. And as the adults, it's our responsibility to help them recognize that a moment doesn't define their life. We want them to be successful, and we're going to help them to be just that.
Absolutely. And I've witnessed, I've seen it during COVID. My neighbors next door, I've seen the school bus stop at their home every day before we went back into the school. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Andrew, I've seen it. Every day they stop there and make sure that family, I think it's a family of 4 children and a mom and a dad, has meals that they're used to or accustomed to through the school system. So I was always proud to hear that bus stop there, not to mention all the other services that, he mentioned that we.
I didn't mention this one. If we have students who want to earn college credit when they're in high school, we provide that support as well. We budget for that. We encourage our students, and you all know Dual enrollment is very important to save families money. As you mentioned, your daughter graduated with her CNA when she finished at Mount Zion, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. It's important. So we have that type of support as well for families. And I don't, the team knows, don't ever tell me you had to turn a kid down because we didn't have enough money, because we always have enough money. If I have to take it from some other location in which it's not needed, we have enough money to educate our children in Clayton County.
That's it.
One of the things that jumped out at me, and now all of a sudden people are more open to talking about not only physical health, but mental health. Mm-hmm. Walk through with us again, especially when there are some school systems where they know there's a need for social workers, but they only come around once every so often because of the volume. So with knowing the more, I'll say, people being more open to recognizing how important that physical and mental health components are, could you describe, a few more things thematically that the system is doing to be proactive and things you're working on to remain proactive?
Yes, sir, I will, Andrew. The first structure we have in place at every school is called the Circle of Support. During the Circle of Support, you have the principal, the administrative team, the counselors, the school psychologists, social workers, and others, professionals who meet to talk about the children, how they're doing, and which children may need not just tier 1 classroom level support, but those who may need support beyond the classroom. And from there, we match those students up with the appropriate healthcare provider to get that support that they may need. But not only do we have the Circle of Support, we have in many of our schools individuals we call student engagement coaches. They work one-on-one with teams of students to ensure that they get the support that they need, academic support, the support that they may need to help improve their behavior, to deal with just life circumstances and situations that, as you well know, many of our children go through on a daily basis. So we have those student engagement support specialists within our schools. But we also have, I mentioned earlier, behavior interventionists. They help teachers to basically work with kids to improve their behavior, work side by side with teachers, giving them suggestions and strategies to help improve that experience for that child in that classroom with their peers. I mentioned earlier, we also provide support for our families, which is very important. As you well know, sometimes in order to help the child, you have to help the entire family. So we have resources that we've identified and partners that we have connected with to really support our students and their families in a variety of ways, whether it be mental health support or just dealing with grief. Sometimes, as you know, with COVID, we had many families that were dealing with grief and the death of loved ones. So we provided support in that area as well. And I've already mentioned the physical support relative to providing groceries. We've even have counselors and others that will actually go deliver groceries to a family's house. As you mentioned, the school bus is stopping at your neighbor's house. We will take those extra steps to ensure that our families receive that support. And to be very honest with you, Andrew, if there's a support that we've not mentioned or we've not provided, if someone will let us know, we'll do what it takes to make sure that our kids, because I want our kids educated, and I know how important it is to meet those basic needs, address those basic needs in order for them to have a very effective instructional, educational experience. So we'll do whatever it takes to address whatever supports that they may need. If they just let us know, and we do ask of our families to just let us know what you need, and we're going to do our best. If they need Wi-Fi, we'll get them Wi-Fi. We'll do whatever it takes. Our foundation in Clayton County right now is the leading foundation. We've raised close to $1 million in less than 3 years. Those funds are used to support our families, our students in Clayton County Public Schools.
And I saw this, the distribution of scholarships during graduation. So I was proud to see those students receive those funds to help them move to the next level.
And that's another way of supporting our kids. And you don't have to be a straight A student. We tell them all the time. Find the students that need the resources. So last year we did 160 scholarships. This year we did over 200 scholarships and awards. And our goal is I'd love to double it next year with the support from our community, parents, and business community.
Yes. And I did not realize until my children were in high school that students were homeless. And I'm just saying, I didn't know that. And so I was just saddened to know that children were homeless. And this was back, like I said, in 2005, 2006, 2007. That was my first experience with it in this area. And so my heart would go out to them because they were determined to learn. They would be in cars in the parking lot. I could not even visualize students having to go through that. But those students were determined. They were determined to be educated, regardless to their circumstances.
And sometimes we have to remind ourselves that on any given day, we have children who are homeless. We have children who are at school who couldn't take a bath because the water was turned off, who couldn't see around the house because the lights were turned off. We've got children in all these situations. And that's why I tell people, you treat people the way you want to be treated. You never know what a child is dealing with at home. You've got children dealing with mom and pop situations, if you will. I don't want to necessarily go into detail here, but we've got children who are seeing this type of these unhealthy interactions between adults on a daily basis in their homes. And they come to school, and first thing we want them to do is learn. It doesn't work that way. We're not, as humans, we're not programmed that way. You've got to address that first in order to get children in a mindset, a frame of mind to learn.
I'm glad you said that, because we forget when a student enters any learning situation, a lot of times they're bringing their most immediate experience, good, bad, or far from it.
Yes,
and
sir.
That ties in with what you said at the very beginning. When you have taken time to establish a relationship, a share and exchange, you can figure out how to better redirect somebody. It might be without telling on a certain someone, you know what, I'm gonna sign your pass for 5 minutes, go get you a drink of water.
There you go.
or just take 7 minutes, go to the library, say hi to somebody, come back. I'm not saying that is conventional wisdom, but sometimes when you have those relationships with students, when you develop that and you understand if it's just not flowing, chances are it's something that either just happened, or like you said, some of those other life situations that we might not be fully aware of. It's like, okay, we need to try to do something a little bit different, because this one size fits all approach is not going to work.
It's not
That's right.
work.
So I'm glad you emphasize that. So just like we'd want people to be cognizant and sensitive of what we're immediately bringing in, when we go into that meeting or that lunch or that workshop, guess what? We need to do as best as possible for meeting young people where they are. And then what can we do to redirect?
Yeah, and sometimes we expect more out of children who are just learning to deal with life than we do of adults who really we should expect more out of the adults.
Yes.
And I have had to have that conversation. Why do we expect so much out of children and so little out of us adults who do know better and should do better?
You better say it. So Dr. Beasley, what has contributed to your success as a leader in this district, particularly during the pandemic? Someone just said that they miss you in DeKalb County. They wish that you were over there with the kids and the parents. Somebody posted that on a Facebook on the show just now. So what has contributed to your success as a leader in this particular school system during the pandemic?
Well, that's you have great questions. That's a great question. And I'll tell you, there are probably many things. I think one thing that helps us is when we make decisions, Shenita and Andrew, I'm not making a political decision. I'm making a decision like Shenita and Andrew are my very own relatives and family members. That's how I'm making a decision. I'm making a decision that is in the best interest of our 55,000 children, their families. And I'm making a decision that I would want someone to make if that were my family. I find that when you do that, then you don't make decisions that change from week to week and day to day. They're very principled. They're grounded in what's right and what's good for all. And in most cases, most reasonable people will support those decisions. Throughout the pandemic, our ability to work as one community has been tremendous to move our community through this pandemic. When I say one community, I mean the school system, the county, the parents, and all on the same page. We've had a few that say, well, I don't necessarily agree with the decision, but I support it. I understand it. And that's really where you want a healthy community to be. We don't necessarily all agree, but they'll say, Dr. Beasley, if this is the decision that we're going to make and we've thought through it, then that's the decision we're going to support. It's not a perfect decision. There are pros and cons. There are negative impacts. There are positive impacts. But this is what we believe to be the best decision for our community at this time. That's what has helped us, and I believe modeled for many school systems in the metro area, in the state, and around the nation, how a community should respond to this pandemic.
And I must say, I've said to you a number of times during the pandemic, when we were working from home, my 9-year-old granddaughter was in school at K Pace, and I had the opportunity to listen and to hear the instruction, how wonderful that team of teachers, that school administered the education. I mean, I was most proud. And I've said that to you. So it starts at the top to me, and it kind of trickles down. And so we could tell that your leadership is streaming down and benefiting the children.
Well, and I have to say that our teachers, they have been so responsive. They've been professional. They were resilient. They were able to get whatever training we needed to get in order to transition to virtual learning. And they really made it work. You all know it wasn't the ideal learning situation, but they really made it work. Our principals, I mean, I tell people, they say, well, you all were not in school. I said, oh, yes, we were. It was just virtual, but we were having school. As a matter of fact, our days were longer virtually than they would have been face to face.
Yes, they were.
We were meeting with more. We had more events and more meetings, but everything was happening virtually. And as you well know, there's research that says that virtual tires you out more than face to face does. So, but the teachers, they were just phenomenal. And I have to give them the accolades for really making it work for our students. They learn how to figure out what to do with those devices, how to teach those classes, realizing, of course, we lost many opportunities to teach a lot of content because, of course, the time was always a factor. We had to be very mindful of what kids online. But considering the circumstances, our teachers did phenomenal. They did awesome. And we as a community should appreciate and celebrate our teachers. And I'm glad, I'll say this, I saw many communities pit families against educators and vice versa. We didn't do that in Clayton County because I knew that wasn't healthy, nor would that yield good results beyond the pandemic. And so we made a point to keep all of our families and teachers and principals and schools on the same page to the extent that we could.
I'm saying kudos. I'm saying kudos all the way around to you and everyone else that's involved in the process, because I think CCPS rocks. So, Andrew, you have a couple of other questions for Dr. Beasley.
Yeah, I think another question that can definitely be tied in, and in a lot of respects, you did go ahead and answer that. But when you think about the access to resources and opportunities from engagement, things along those lines, what things do you think you can do to continue to build? So, for example, is this something where you're looking at the relationship between the school system and the school, the county school board? Are you looking at what different relationships can be expanded on the state level or federal level? Because we know that, of course, the system will gradually grow in regards to the number of students, areas of concern, etc. And what things are you envisioning to put in place to continue to be proactive as you have been to address these growing needs?
Well, I think one thing that comes to mind immediately is I don't want us to lose the amount of engagement that we've had during the pandemic with the tools. We've had more parents and teachers conversing, interacting with one another. And I want to make sure that we give our parents options. You know, we have a working community, and I don't want people to ever think that when they don't see a parent, it's because the parent doesn't care. Sometimes the parent is just working and they don't have the luxury sometimes as we do to take off and to be there at the drop of a dime. So I want to see our schools, our school system, our board continue to use these tools to keep our community engaged at very high levels. Secondly, I would want to continue to expand our partnerships to ensure, of course, all of our schools have partners. I want every school to have a long list of partners to provide the support based upon the needs of that particular school. I would love to see in our school system more of our fathers engaged. And so we're supporting the fatherhood initiative that's occurring through a Morehouse College that you may have heard Chairman Turner do the fatherhood proclamation on last night or the other night, Tuesday night, I believe it was. We're supporting that here in Clayton County. And so we want to see more of our fathers engaged. Choice is a big piece of the future as well. So next year, you'll see families that are still learning virtually. Some families have chosen that they want to continue virtual for whatever reason. While we may not always agree with that choice, we will make it work for the family and do our best to ensure that learning is not compromised as they are learning virtually. So you'll see a combination of options in our district, not just next year, but I think going forward. And I don't want to lose that. Honestly, we shouldn't have any more attendance issues, to be very honest with you, because when kids are not in school, they ought to have a laptop and connected to what's happening. And so I hope that going forward, everyone understands that we ought to be close to 100% attendance every day.
That's right.
Because there's no excuse to not be connected to what's happening in our schools. The discipline improved while we were learning virtually. And I hope as a community and I think one reason it improved is because those children were sitting there with their parents many times or family members, and those family members were holding those kids accountable.
Yes.
I hope that we don't lose that going forward, because teachers can do a lot more teaching and a lot better job at teaching when they don't have to be disrupted or they're not disrupted with the discipline issues.
Yes, indeed.
And I just hope that as a community that we'll continue to accelerate our kids. You all know here in Clayton County, all of our students in middle school are expected to be participate in accelerated math, 8th grade algebra, and take high school level courses in the 8th grade.
I love
9th graders are expected to take advanced placement and career academies or career pathways. I want to see 100% of our kids do that. I would love to see a day, Andrew, when I graduate a class of seniors, that every single one of them they've completed an advanced placement or dual enrollment course. Every kid has at least one on their transcript. That's what we're working toward in Clayton County. I don't want people to ever use income level or race as an excuse not to accelerate and produce a high performing school system, because we've shown in Clayton County that we can do it. Our advanced placement scores are moving in the right direction. I want kids reading more. I do think we need to do more reading.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to read the right type. I need them off the social media reading. And I need them reading the things that will help them think critically and solve problems. Right. So more of the literacy efforts you'll see, and you'll hear more of that going on in our district as well. So hopefully that gives you an idea of some things that I hope that we maintain, don't lose, if you will, or continue to accelerate as we move forward.
I know that at K-Pace, my granddaughter sent received some information on studying for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. They said it's volunteer, but she will be participating.
Good. And not only did we do that, we sent to families because we have wonderful summer opportunities for learning and STEM and acceleration, etc. But we also sent some families just got tired of being connected to school. We understand that. I think if I had children in K-12, they wouldn't be in anybody's summer school. They'd be at home. But we gave them a list of things that they can do with the children just to keep them engaged academically, keep those minds, keep those minds thinking, moving intellectually. So if they don't connect to any of our programs, and just take the list of things that we suggested that you do as a family and do those things. But we want everybody to stay engaged.
I'm so glad you said that, because before we got on, I know like students I work with during the summer, we know summer sometimes means people slack off. And then when you come back in August, it's like you're starting from square one. And by the time you start getting into a rhythm, it's Labor Day. And it's like you already lost that time. So like you said, whether people are taking formal summer classes or if they're doing these hands-on opportunities, I'm just thinking ahead, like some of the suggestions. Those are great times to go ahead and explore like your art, your creative arts, and seeing things at work, your sciences at work, things along those lines. So I'm glad you basically touch base on during the summer. You don't necessarily have to be in front of the laptop like you were during the year. You don't necessarily have to be in the classroom, but you have to do something just to keep the wheel spinning just enough. So when you come back formally, it's maybe taking you a couple days to get back in gear versus a month and a half to get back in gear.
Exactly. I love that. So Andrew, did you have another question, or was that the last one, or you have one more?
I think just going back to the point that you made about some of the things to continue to work on, like you said, father engagement. If there's a message that you'd like to deliver to entities such as, but not limited to, our nonprofit community, our corporate community, our alumni clubs and associations, and our service organizations, what would be a message you'd like to share with them so they can be a part of the great things that are going on in Clayton County?
I would just encourage them to consider partnering with Clayton County. We have our engagement office that works with all of our partners to connect them to the right opportunities. And we ask that they just bring to the table whatever opportunities and resources that they can share with our students. We're not asking everybody to donate money. We're not asking everybody to, sometimes it's just time, participating in some type of mentoring event, or going to participating in a career day at a school or several schools. But there's something everybody can do. Remember, it's about community. Education is a community affair. When all of us get involved in the educational process as one community, we will be amazed at the outcomes that we will see in our community. And if there's a community that I think is most deserving of that support, it would be Clayton County Public Schools. Our children, you've got to interact with our children. I do as a superintendent and advisories and when I visit schools, etc. Even throughout the pandemic, I was invited in the classrooms virtually to read to kids and have conversations with our kids. Our kids are somebody special, you all. And we as adults should be honored to be around our kids. They are a blessing to us in our lives and our community. Without our children, this community would die. Yes. Think about it. It would literally die out. Mm-hmm. And so whatever they can contribute, time, resources, even a good word, say something positive about our children, about our community. Every community has its challenges, but stop focusing on everything that's wrong, because I can assure you there's more things that are right than things that are wrong. Focus on that and use your words. Use your words to lift our community, to lift our children, to lift our school system. Remember, life and death is in the power of the word, the power of the tongue. Mm-hmm. We need people to speak life to our children and to our community. words are so important.
Yes, they are. Our department, Business Services, has a new slogan, and it's problems plus solutions equal progress.
Yeah, good.
So there are problems, but did you come with a solution?
Solution, that's right.
And we're trying to make progress. So we're trying to move forward. So yeah, speak life. Speak life. So I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Dr. Beasley. I've enjoyed watching you as the administrator head with Clayton County Public School System for years, because you started, what year did you start in the beginning?
In Clayton County,
Mm-hmm.
that was in 2016. I started as the Chief School Improvement Officer.
Yep. And I watched the progress from 2016 until today, 21. It's been amazing. So kudos to you and all that you do, the lack of sleep, the battles, fire, all of that you have to contend with. So thank you for just loving the children and loving the people and understanding God's grace, because that means a great deal.
Thank you for sharing that. Sometimes I wonder, are we making a positive impact? But when people like yourself, when you share, because you've been there longer than I have, and you share what you see, I know you're not just telling me that just to be telling it to me, that you're actually sharing what you're observing. And it just affirms that sometimes, even when we don't know if we're making a difference or don't think we are, that a difference is being made. And that, to me, that's an honor just to hear you share that. That's my desire and prayer, is that we make a positive difference in the lives of all of our children, all the employees, and our entire community at large in Clayton County.
Yes. And I'm definitely learning from that 9-year-old that lives with me. And I'm open to learning, and she makes sure that she lets me know that she's teaching me something. So, I just am just grateful. I'm not a certified educator, but I'm an educator at heart. I love to teach and I love to share resources. And so this platform, I'm hoping it is going to educate, inform, encourage those who are watching it today and years to come.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for what you're doing to just lift our county, lift our school system, to get the word out, to provide our parents another vehicle, another medium to just be informed, which is so powerful and so much needed, not just in our community, but across this nation. So thank you and I know you work full time and you've got other responsibilities, but thank you for taking out time to do this in addition to everything else that you're already doing. And Andrew, of course, thank you for this opportunity and for the conversation. And I look forward to the next opportunity.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you for being here, and continued well wishes and encouragement. And I think it's great. The great thing about things like this, it gives people a reference point as to where we started, yes, where we are, and where we're trying to go. So continue building on the very good things that are taking place in Clayton County.
We will. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Beasley. And you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And if you would just hang tight for like 2 minutes when I close out, okay. Would you all both? Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Andrew, would you like to say any parting words before we close out? We have 2 minutes.
I would just say to your audience, hopefully you found tonight a great way to take inventory of positive things that are taking place. A lot of times is very quick to talk about what isn't going well. And we did talk about a couple things that are still areas of concern. But when you keep it balanced with the things that are going well, it hopefully keeps everybody motivated and encouraged. And one of the best things that you can do, be a proactive part to the best of your ability. It's very easy to sit back and talk about things, but if you're just sitting back and talking about it, you're not helping the situation. Take what you know, build upon it like you heard tonight, and whether it's in Clayton County or any county, in principle, what you heard tonight, it is possible and it can be done. So when they say, why me? Why not me? Why not you? So hopefully that resonates with people tonight.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you as well as the audience for watching, tuning in, whether they watch it tonight or in the future. And that this and every show that is broadcast brings life and helps them to move forward and choose to live a vibrant life beyond life's challenges, no matter what.
Indeed.
So we want to thank you all for watching. Please tune in next Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to be having a conversation about mental health. Again, I know May was Mental Health Month, but we're going to have the conversation again. So we thank you all, and please also join us on Thursday nights on FAM Radio, where the show is broadcasted as well at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you again. Remember, I love you, but God loves you most, and He loves you best. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.